Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode of 11, I think, or 10 of the Sweet Lemon podcast with Ricky Gervais. Today, I have one of my favorite comedians that I've met. A very, not new, newer than me by like 6 months, but still an incredible comedian that I love. Joshua Bethania.
Oh, that's a very sweet intro, man.
I could be like, I've got someone I hate dearly. Someone who I'm really sad to be here. But yeah, no, honestly, the reason I wanted to get you on is because we met at a gig in Bristol, right? Where you closed it and I opened it. Like, we both did 20 minutes. And what I loved about that gig is the fact that our two styles could probably not be any more different. Like, you are completely probably the opposite to me in comedy, but you're still like so funny. Like, where did your style come from?
I don't think I had a style as such. Like basically what I'm doing right now is my style. Like this is how I speak to people all the time. Like, I remember doing this and I got off stage and someone asked me something and I spoke this way and they were like, "Oh, see, you're still speaking that way." I thought it was an act, but no, I think it's this is how I've always been.
So when you first started stand up, did you find like you felt like you were putting on a character, or did you just go straight for this is me, I'm just myself?
No, I definitely wanted to just be myself. I didn't even want to get into stand up for the sake of stand up. I mostly wanted to improve on my public speaking.
Really?
Mostly because of work, because I got into a role which needed me to drive meetings and be the central focus and like sort of manage things. I thought, and this was an area that I did always enjoy, and I thought at the back of my head maybe I could do it for fun. So yeah, that's basically how I got into it.
So for you, it was like you wanted to do comedy because you were like, it can help me with public speaking.
Yeah.
But did you ever? Wait, so because I feel like a lot of comedians come into comedy and they're like, yeah, I back myself with public speaking. Like, I couldn't speak in front of an audience. Yeah. Did you ever feel like you couldn't?
I still don't think I can.
I mean, come on.
No, I feel like there are different kinds of public speaking.
Yeah.
I think what I like about stand-up is I don't need to put on an act. I can just be myself. Like, even whereas if you're in a meeting or if you're trying to give like a speech, you need to put on a bit more than your usual, right? So it sort of feels like, oh, you have to get everyone's attention to make sure they say these things.
Yeah.
Whereas at stand-up, people just want to see who you are as a person, or maybe some people assume it's a character.
Yeah.
So I think it made me more comfortable with the way I am in general. So, which is not a great thing to be, like a motivational leader at the workplace.
Yeah. Have you noticed the change in yourself since you started?
Oh yeah, massively. Like, but in what way? What
like, as in, because for me, I feel like before I started doing stand-up like regularly to the level that we both do, it's like I always had this weird thing where I was never really sure how funny I was. So I was always trying to be funny constantly, but all the time it didn't come across as funny. It maybe come across as like too trying too hard. But now that like I do comedy 3 or 4 times a week, now it's like there is just no try in me anymore. Now I'm just like, when I meet people, it's like, it's fine. I have a gig later where I can prove myself to an audience or whatever.
Yeah. Now that I never thought about it, but now that you mention it, it's probably similar. Like, I always thought, oh, okay, I need to put that effort of being funny.
Yeah.
I had this need to make a joke everywhere.
Yeah.
I think now I'm a bit more restrained, like save it for the stage.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. So you're doing your work in progress, was you telling me? So
yeah, I am. I think I had like a burst of inspiration towards the middle of last year. I just started writing so much more and everything started landing. So I'm like, oh, I've got like an hour of things to do. Might as well do it.
Yeah. And so you have an hour of material already.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's good material.
It's material.
I think everyone's got an hour of material.
I mean, if you stand up there holding a crowd hostage, you have an hour of material.
Yeah, my I think since maybe for the last 5-6 months, my goal is to be brave enough to do badly on stage and not come out feeling depressed / oh, I don't want to do comedy again. So
have you felt like that before?
Yeah, if I feel like I'm bombing like with new material, I just fall back to the good stuff and I'm like, okay, no, I don't know. I don't want to feel that ever.
Yeah.
But now I'm in a place where like I think I can go an hour of doing badly and I'll be okay at the end of it and not feel bad.
Yeah. No, I think I saw a clip of yours before and I loved it, where I think you were working out the value of comedy that the audience deserved or something at Big Barely Comedy. Like, what was that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Basically, it was a new material night. Right?
Yeah.
So every comic comes on and it's like, listen, I'm just trying this. Okay, that was funny. That was not funny. So
Yeah.
going back and forth. And I was like, oh, listen, I'm going to try new stuff. I look at this as a success if I give your money's worth.
Yeah.
Right. So, and people have paid like what, £8 or something per ticket. So I sort of just do a quick math, like, okay, so you have 8 comics. So I have to give at least £1 worth of comedy, which I think I can sort of do.
I think when you put it like that, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
who cares what you say?
Yeah. Like imagine being an audience member. Sometimes you pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like for me right now, every time there's a show, I look at the ticket price and it's like, oh shit, I need to be like, I have to give them the money worth.
Really?
But whereas what I don't realize is when I'm a consumer for any art form, like movies or something, I actually don't think that it's like, oh, it's like 15 quid for a shit movie. I'd still watch it. And, and be like, oh, it's not really a waste of money. So maybe I need to get into that frame of mind that that it's okay to waste people's money.
I mean, it is kind of okay. Some people deserve to have their money wasted, to be honest. I mean, I feel like whenever I'm doing a gig, I don't think I look at the ticket price, but now that I think about it, I feel like it does kind of factor in a little bit, because I think people especially know when they go to a free comedy night, they are expecting nothing. They do not care whatsoever. Are you going to sell tickets for your work in progress?
For tomorrow one, yeah, it's kind of sold out actually. That's why I'm a bit slightly stressed, because
Really?
it's a little more expensive than the usual one.
How much?
So it's like 15 to 18 quid.
15 pounds, you balling.
No, I didn't set the price. It was so I'm doing like Soho Theatre.
Yeah.
They have the Soho Rising thing, and they just set the price.
Yeah.
So I didn't even, in my head I was like, I'm not gonna oversell this.
Yeah. How many people?
It's like about 70 plus, maybe up to 80. I think. So yeah, it's so there's a bit of pressure to do well.
Yeah.
So whereas the other work in progresses I've been doing so far have been £1.
Yeah. I mean, people are paid to see you, but ultimately they're going to see you. Whether you do this joke or that joke, or you do this well or that well, either way, they get what they wanted. They've seen you. Ultimately, they've seen you.
Yeah, like funnily enough, I like sometimes when I'm having lunch, I just open up YouTube and it just comes some random, like some of the things, like lately it's just been comedy stuff. There's one stand-up thing of, I think it was Dave Chappelle's crowd work or something. He starts off with, I heard that some of the front row people here have paid about up to like $500, $600. Like I did the exact same show 2 weeks ago for $50. You could have literally flown there, bought tickets, stayed in a hotel and still saved some money.
That is, yeah. It is kind of like, because it is kind of arbitrary how much a ticket is, because I think most of the time you're actually paying for the venue. You're not really paying for the people on. Right. And I think if you actually know that, you actually can see a lot of people for quite cheap.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, sometimes you see celebrities do their work in progresses in a place like Top Secret for £1.
Yeah.
So, and like the tour tickets would be a lot more. So
yeah. Like I remember, I think it was a few years, like 2 years ago, like Russell Howard, he does his work in progress in a Bristol theatre that I can't even remember the name of. And what he would do is he would do his work in progress and he'd have like a few of us support him beforehand, and he would just do the tickets for like £1. And then they would just go like that. But then the people who were coming, they were still expecting like Russell Howard, like O2 Arena or whatever kind of standard of stuff. But so I think it's just people care more about like the person that's coming rather than the amount that they're paying. Man, I'm excited that you're doing a work in progress though. That it's like, are you doing a debut anytime soon?
That's the plan for sure. Like just to build up to it. I mean, like debuting at the Fringe is. I think I just want to get it out of the way. Like I don't really know. Like I feel like I don't look at comedy as a career yet.
Really?
Yeah, like a lot of people sort of treat it like who want to debut. Sort of, I feel like they look at it as like a career. I feel like I'm super early in the game, and it's mostly just to get it out of the way because I keep getting asked.
That's a compliment, though. That's a compliment. Being asked when you're going to debut.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's mostly the cost. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I love, like, I was there at the Fringe the whole of last month. I mean,
Really?
last year.
Really?
And it's just good fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll probably do it.
Yeah. We should probably explain to all the comedy lays, including our producer, Tom, that who's going to be a frequent character from now on. Basically, in stand-up, the way it works is a lot of people will do their new materials, their 5 minutes, their 10 minutes, Tom. And then eventually they'll get to a point where they're doing 20 minutes. Then eventually they'll do a work in progress, which is 40 minutes. And then eventually they'll do what's called debuting, usually at the Edinburgh Fringe. And that's their like big show where they get reviews from different people. So what Josh, is Josh okay? Okay, good. I wouldn't want to misname you. What Josh is talking about is he's going to basically debut at some point after he's done his work in progress and he's worked it out, but he can't be asked because the Fringe is very expensive. There we go. How much is the Fringe now?
Oh, wow. That's a very... Depends on why you do. Obviously, the main expenses are like just staying there. Yeah. Like Airbnbs are like overpriced like hell. Like a month would be like $2,500, $2,000, like just to like not even in a great place, right? Yeah. Like, so you sort of figure that out, maybe share with other comics and bring the price down a bit lower, and then depends on where you do. Like if you do the main gigs and you want a lot of hype around your show, I know people who spent like you have to spend money on like your posters, your PR is where a lot of money goes. Like I think some people spend up to like $2,000 or something, which seems insane to me. But it's a lot cheaper if you do it at the Free Fringe, right? Like you don't have to pay for a venue, whereas the other guys you sort of have to pay for a venue and then ticket it accordingly. So
it's such a weird scam.
And even if you do sell like 80-90%, you'd still like just about break even rather than a profit. Like the Free Fringe folks, they tend to make a bit of money. They don't do invest in PR. They just, the flyering works. They just either outsource it or do it by themselves. Flyer on the streets, like come to my show, and that tends to be a more fun crowd because it's like, oh, it's a free show, let's just go watch it. And then at the end, audience members just pay what they can as a donation. So which sort of works a bit better, which is what a lot of people recommend. I honestly don't understand like the ins and outs of
No, I mean, neither do I, to be honest. It's like, I know I'm going to have to do it at some point, but I'm just like, the effort of going up to Edinburgh, doing an hour of comedy every day, basically, for a month.
Speaking for an hour every day.
I mean, that's going to help your public speaking, definitely. So when you say you don't see comedy as a career, are you like, do you mean you don't think of it as a career yet?
Yet, yeah. And also, like, I think from what I've seen of people who do comedy as a career or who are being successful rather, I feel like they do many things. They're not just stand up, like writing for TV, even some level of acting and things like that. So I don't know if I'm have interests in all of those things. I sort of at this point just doing stand up. Maybe I'd want to get into some form of writing. But I've never written. I haven't even written like a simple TikTok sketch. But I think I can like I could like sprinkle jokes around stuff that's written. Maybe I'll get into it at some point. So I don't know if stand up alone is enough to have a not that I'm looking for a luxurious life, but I've got a decent career at the moment, work wise, where I can like afford to just live by myself and like not worry too much about my bills going to be covered. So I don't know how much I would make in stand up to be at that level. So
yeah, I mean that's the tough thing is like a lot of the problem is a lot of stand-ups do something else, and a lot of people can't actually go like full time, and it means that we probably miss out on a lot of people who could have become comedians because they can't afford it. It's like there's actually like a barrier to entry, like a financial barrier to entry, which is a shame really. But I mean, to be making enough to have a flat in London and to support yourself, your bills in comedy, you'd have to be like gigging 17 times a day or something.
I mean, like you could do like, you'll have to do at least like 1 or 2 TV events per month or something, in my opinion. Like, I mean, not even like in front of the camera, like just behind the camera, like warm-ups or something. That probably would give you some money. But yeah, like some gigs do pay a lot. I guess like going out a lot is a bit helpful.
Yeah, I mean, but you even get like good gigs pay like £150, and like, what are you really meant to do with that? Like, how much? Like, really, you have to be gigging at least 4 times a week. 4 times a week, then you're making what, like 600 a week times 4. Yeah, that's before tax as well. So you really have to be like gigging like 5 times a week really to be making like enough to be making like a normal minimum wage.
Yeah, like and if you want to earn like decent money in London, you have to like be a regular on the clubs on the weekends. So that's where a bit of money comes from London. Otherwise, London money is pretty shit.
Yeah, it is. Did you start in London?
Yeah.
How did you find it? Like starting in London?
It was good. Like I think it's definitely a really good place to start off. There's just literally a night every night. You can gig just about any night. And the problem is when I first started off, this was 2021 or something. Most gigs are like you have to bring a friend, and then it's like limited to like 5-minute spots. Like what I've heard in Bristol, people go to 10 minutes a lot faster than 5 minutes. So like 10 minutes was not all that regular in my first year, and but I didn't mind. It was like the networking was brilliant. Like I was like getting my name out there without any effort. Like I would just go up to a gig and be like, oh, these guys are like proper comedians, and you sort of like socialize, become friends, and it's good to get to know the circuit. So that way it's good. Like, but money wise, I think I earned like 25 quid for one in the first year. So
yeah, I mean, did you always feel like you were going to start comedy, or was it literally just like a spur of the moment?
Yeah, it just happened. It was like I did a course.
You did a course?
Yeah. And
which one?
Angel Comedy.
Oh yeah, that's
this was just after lockdown, like where everyone's like trying to do something like, or like maybe more social. And so I did that. At the end of it, you get to do a spot at the Bill Murray, which was great. And I did well. I was surprised. I think everyone was surprised that I did.
Everyone was surprised. Why?
Because I barely spoke in class, and here and there it was just whatever. I would just be like, I think I'll. Like everyone else seemed a bit more like confident out there in class. But there, I just did some shit, and it was like people found things funny that were not meant to be funny. Like saying something as simple as just hi to the audience, and people just started laughing. I'm like, that's not a joke.
No, do you know what I think it is? I think it's the fact that like clearly this is my back, like this is my driver's, what am I saying, passenger seat analysis of what happened. Is like, it's because I think you've so immediately got a link between your comedy persona and who you really are. Like, like those two things just came so quickly for you. So like so it's like, because like a big thing for people is finding their comedic voice and like finding who they are on stage. Like I wouldn't even necessarily say I know who I am on stage yet. Like I know jokes that I can get away with and I can't get away with, and I kind of know what I would say, but I wouldn't really be able to put it into words. But like I feel like with you, like there is just like, this is Joshua Bethania. This is what you are. And I think that is very valuable, especially to come so early.
Yeah. I think, what was I going to say? Like finding my, like when I, like the moments I've been funny with people where I sort of always joke, I make it a point not to laugh at the thing I'm saying. And I think I always found it easier to like, just subtly put the joke across.
Yeah.
I think I was that person. So, and I think that just translated and it works much better on stage where I'm just not like, oh, hang on, here comes the punchline. But whereas it's more like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, as a matter of fact, and that worked in my favor, I think. So that was a bit helpful. And in general, I feel like people like a different voice, mainly because they're not used to it. When I did stand up in India, I was like just one among.
Did you do it in English?
It was, I did like a couple of nights. I didn't do it. Like I'm not too plugged in the circuit, and because like even the city where I did it in was, it's sort of like just coming up.
Yeah.
And there's quite, you sort of have to be well plugged, and I don't know enough people to sort of go on regularly.
That's mad. There's like an active comedy circuit in India.
Yeah, and I only did it in like just a few nights because I was home for Christmas.
Yeah,
I thought,
yeah.
might as well try it, and I had to like rewrite everything. None of my stuff that I do here would work there. So it's
so are there nights, like, do you speak another language?
Some people like make it bilingual.
Yeah.
They throw in like another language.
Yeah.
So it depends on which city. Some people just stick to English, like where I'm from. Like most people just do English more.
Oh, really?
If you go to a few other places like Bombay or something, it's either English or they tend to be a bit more Hindi focused. But it tends to be quite multilingual at times.
Yeah. What have you noticed? What's the difference between like India and the UK in terms of comedy? Like in terms of style, in terms of the circuit?
I think it's quite unique in India. Like some of the acts I saw were like so good, and I was like, oh man, if you move to London, like you'd easily stand out.
Really?
The problem here is it's there's not so much of a demand of like comedy clubs. It's just clubs run by other guys like me. So you don't have like veteran comedy clubs. You don't have a comedy store. Which
Yeah.
run. I mean, there is technically a comedy store / Soho theater as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's like in Mumbai. That's the place to be in terms of stand-up is what people say. But I've never been there. I'll probably go there at some point. But in Bangalore, it's like clubs are just more like little things that have just come up in the last few years. But I don't know how it is like to make money. I think most people are just traveling comedians. They go around the country and they do a lot of comedy. But I did meet a few people who've like quit their decent paying jobs just to pursue comedy.
Really?
Which is quite impressive. So I'm like, okay, that there is some people who are just like going out of the way to do these things. So
yeah. And I feel like as well, like it seems like with Southeast Asian comedians and with Arabic comedians, there really is an avenue to go elsewhere. Like one of my friends, you might know Musin Yesalada. Yeah, like he's like Turkish, Cypriot, kind of Arabic. I don't know what that means, but he's done gigs in like Saudi Arabia now, and like I think he's going to Dubai and stuff. And it's like there's a big desire to get people like back into those countries who have been like, I guess, trained in the UK. And it's like there isn't really something like that for like Black people in Africa, that kind of thing. Like I think it's because there's so many Black American comedians that for us the translation is just going to America. Yeah, I think that's literally the closest example. It seems like the like Desi circuit in the UK is big now.
Yeah, it's slowly picking up, but it's more like it's very English focused.
Really?
Because I did meet a few people who are like, oh, can we do it in this language? And it's like, so funnily enough, there's no like regular place where people can go to watch it.
Yeah.
But I know like there are a lot of Indian comedians who come who don't speak in English, and they sell out like just like that.
Really?
There's one guy who sold out the Royal Albert Hall, like doing it in non-English.
Really?
Yeah, and it was mind blowing because that's how much the fans are like. That's one thing about India. We've got enough audience.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's so many people.
So like comedians, they've got like millions of followers, and like you wouldn't see them like you wouldn't know them like how you know most of the American and English comedians, but they're like, I mean, first of all, they're brilliant, and secondly, they've got like a big following, and it's they don't have to like change to English or something. They can continue doing that, and they do like global tours.
Yeah,
because diaspora is like massive.
It's massive. Yeah, no, power to you. Like, yeah, like I think like Russell Peters. Yeah, I think he's arguably probably the most famous comedian on earth.
Yeah, easily. He's probably the one who's introduced comedy to Indian audiences, I feel.
Yeah.
Because we always knew the idea of stand-up comedy and we'd watch every now and then. But when Russell Peters came on the screen, everyone was like, oh, wait, hang on.
Yeah.
There's an Indian guy and he's talking shit about England, and I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
So there's like a whole generation. He basically, I'd say he made it quite global in like South Asia and things like that. So.
Yeah. Would you say like with Southeast Asian culture, like Indian culture or anything, like how would you say like comedy is received? Like, is being a stand-up comedian an acceptable career? Like, do people look up, down, or horizontally at them?
Oh, anyone in the arts are looked down. They're like, what's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you a doctor? Like, I mean, it's a stereotype joke, but it genuinely...
Yeah.
I think it's definitely changing for sure. Like, people do pursue the arts a lot more these days. I've seen some doctors actually want to move on to the arts because they don't want to be a doctor, which is like...
Right here.
Oh, you?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you didn't realize I was a doctor. See, this is what I love about this podcast. Is like I literally don't speak to anyone that I bring on, and I want everything to happen like live on the thing. But yeah, I'm a doctor.
Oh, man, so do you not feel guilty about letting people die?
Yes, I do.
All while the NHS is struggling.
And I'm here telling jokes. No, man, but there's weird how many doctor comedians there are.
Yeah. Like someone who made this joke, I think Benji Waterston.
Yeah,
I think he said some joke about like the fact that there are so many doctor comedians goes to tell how well the field pays.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, and I've racked my brain like for ages trying to think like why are there so many? Like even in like when I did Chortle student competition, even in my final, there were 3 doctors. So it was me, Daniel Petrie, and Michael McKenzie were all in it, and all 3 of us are doctors of the 8 finalists. And it's like, what are the odds of that? It's just for some reason there's something going on that I can't really figure out. But like, I guess, I mean, also you do have a lot of people who are like finance as well. It seems like consulting, but maybe there's just a lot of people in that career. I don't know. But yeah, I guess maybe it's the performance and an element of it. Like they're both relatively hard. I don't know. Yeah. But my parents are disappointed. That's all that matters.
So how far along are you?
I'm in my first year as a doctor. So I'm a foundation year 1. So I graduated in August. Yeah, so I've literally been just trying to fight for my life, trying to survive. It's honestly, it's mental. It is honestly mental.
So have you thought about
what I'm going to do?
What the goal is?
Yeah, man. I've racked my brain so much and I have no idea where I'm going to be in 5 years. But realistically, what's going to happen? I have to do the next 2 years basically to get my full registration. And also, if once you do the next 2 years, you're basically free to do anything. Go to any country, do whatever. So I'm going to finish this, then gig as much as possible, do as much stand-up as possible, grow this podcast, grow the YouTube, try, because I had a podcast before called Oh Captain, My Captain, where like I had a few like relatively big guests. The podcast grew relatively big, but then because I left Bristol, I had to leave my co-host as well. So I'm trying to grow this one to a similar level and then get it to a point where it can support me and like I don't need the medicine money. So that's to get those medicine money. They basically like get to a point where I can do as few shifts as possible. But I'm not even necessarily trying to leave. I'm just trying to like, I don't know. I'm just trying to see what happens with this whole NHS thing. What direction it goes with, whether this silly...
Stay?
Yeah, I mean, it might not.
I mean, if it privatizes, your money might go up.
Exactly. That's the thing. That is the weird thing. It's like the worse it gets, the more private opportunities there are because people don't want to use the NHS. But it is, yeah. It's like the hospital I work in now, the A&E is honestly one of the biggest examples of the third world that I've seen in the UK. It is mental. It's like literally like a corridor of people, like 40 people in a corridor. It's
third world hospitals are pretty great, man.
I have nothing against the third world. I was born in the third world.
There are people who I found out like especially in America, they fly out to India to get a procedure done, and they come back and they still save money. Like the cost of flying out, hotels, staying there, coming back, everything, and they still save money.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine Indian healthcare is quite good.
Yeah. It's like
no,
it's either this here or there. Sort
really?
of. Yeah.
Is it private or is it social?
A bit of both. Like the private stuff is not is pretty affordable.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what, and insurance sort of covers a lot of things.
Yeah.
Government hospitals are like free.
Yeah.
But the quality tends to be a bit lower, so you want to go to like, so it depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, I actually know nothing about like India, just generally.
I mean, same here. Like, to be honest, like I don't know much about India. Sometimes when I go to a new city, I'm like, I get a culture shock. So,
really?
Yeah, it's people don't realize how diverse India is.
No,
like,
that is the thing. Even like, I mean, not to cut you off talking about your own culture, to tell you about your culture. even like when people say like, oh, Indian food, like, oh, this is Indian food. A korma, tikka masala, that isn't even Indian food by the sounds of it. Apparently that's Bangladeshi food, and that's just what we call Indian food for some reason.
Yeah, a lot of it has been anglicized as well, just to make it bearable for the taste buds here. And that some of it just became normal food as well. Yeah. Across India. And yeah, it depends on which part of India you're from. Food's quite varied as well. I think like just my city, like 5 kilometer radius, it's like massive diversity.
How is it diverse? Like how does it vary?
Like culturally, the food they eat, the language they speak, the festivals they celebrate, even like skin color is quite different. I guess my city is a bit more cosmopolitan that way. It's a bit like London.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to look at India is look at each state in India as like a country in Europe.
Really?
So everything's like derived from the same language, but
yeah,
they're like different languages and they speak different, they have different culture. They celebrate different festivals.
Really?
So I think that's the best way to look at it. So it's like you sort of get a sense of what Europe would be like, but when you go there, you have this experience, right?
Yeah.
So that's literally what I do when I go to different state or city.
Are they more separate than like American states? Like, you know how like Texas is nothing like California, that kind of.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I guess, but at least in America they all speak the same language, so it sounds like it's even more like varied.
Yeah, English is like technically an official language. Not everyone speaks it all that well, but everyone's primary language tends to be something different. But it sort of has the same roots, so you can sort of guess what some of the words are and things like that. So,
that is interesting. Fine. So where are you from in India?
From the south, from a city called Bangalore.
Bangalore.
The state is called Karnataka.
Yeah.
So that's very simple city in terms of food, and like we don't like do too much. But Bangalore itself is like a very cosmopolitan city,
Mm.
but also international at the same time. We've got like massive, like think of any tech company that you know,
Yeah,
they've got a presence there.
of course.
So
Customer support.
no, not even customer, like proper engineering development. It started off as customer support, then it sort of
Yeah.
started off, moved into like being outsourced work.
Yeah.
So everyone's just engineering now. They're building, and now it's all just become independent, standalone Indian startups.
Really?
Yeah. So like customer support is like it's moved out of Bangalore, sort of moved
Yeah.
towards the east, and it's a significant number, but the engineering is quite massive as well. People don't, like, a lot of things are built out of India.
Yeah.
And that's quite massive.
Yeah, no, India is like a huge economic powerhouse now. Like even in my old podcast, the third biggest listener was India. It was UK, America, India.
Yeah.
For some, I guess it's just because there's so many people that you're just going to get like a big present there, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like. Would you ever like want to do like tours in India?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It depends. I'm thinking of tour as a little ahead of myself.
Nah, you're on the way though.
I'd probably have to rewrite something which is a bit
Yeah.
more global. I don't think my what I'm doing right now is global enough. It's very localized to the UK. And you sort of, I think material in India tends to be a bit more like you want to avoid like politics in general.
You really?
Yeah.
Why? Like, is there a freedom of speech issue?
That's a well, maybe it depends on who you ask. Like you can't like shit on certain political groups.
Really?
Yeah, people would get offended. You might even get like a court case filed against you.
Really? In India?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah. So like a lot of comedians right now, they have like if you listen to who are quite brave enough to do it, they still do it. They've got like police complaints against them. So most comedians sort of moving away from that world. They prefer to just keep it personal.
Yeah.
Because the idea of like or someone's taking the piss out of me is not something like it's not a thing really.
In Indian culture.
Yeah. I mean, some people are quite sportive and they take it. But and it's also understandable. I don't think people speak the way most people speak. I guess why comedy is so great in the UK is because it's also part of their regular culture. Like taking the piss out of your mate is literally what you do in comedy.
Yeah.
And you can sort of do that in India, but it depends on where you're doing it, who's listening and things like that.
I see.
Most people just do it regardless. They're a bit brave enough to do it. I'm someone who would not be.
What is like the law like? Like, can you actually arrest someone for saying something offensive?
I mean, that you could probably do that in the UK as well, right?
Yeah, like inciting racial hatred, stuff like that.
Like saying something offensive about a religion, saying offensive things about a politician. It's sort of like a defamation thing. But like defending, saying, "Oh no, I meant it as a joke." It's not really a thing. So
yeah, it's not a thing.
No, I mean people do fight it.
Yeah,
a lot of people fight it. But I don't know if it's worth the hassle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, like it can be like the freedom of speech is. I hate saying that term ever since I moved to the UK.
Why?
Like it sort of tends to overlap with the idea that you can't, like, when you stop being too successful.
Yeah.
You start saying things like that.
Yeah, you start worrying about free speech.
Like I did a whole opening thing in my work in progress where it's like there are comedians in places like Iran and Sri Lanka who've literally gone missing, who've been arrested because
Mm.
of just the things that they say on stage.
Yeah.
Right now, that's like proper lack of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Whereas here, when you come and fight, oh, I can't make trans jokes. Like, dude, really?
I mean, really, is that the hill you're gonna die on?
Yes.
No, it's true. It's true. It's when you start failing and you start a Patreon. That's when you start talking about freedom of speech.
I mean, obviously, I'm not taking digs at anyone.
Yeah.
Not that you have to be successful to do that, but like as a general human being with human experiences with people who've seen instances where freedom of speech actually stops you, where you can't protest and certain things.
Yeah.
That is proper.
Yeah.
definition of
Yeah.
Not saying things, oh man, I can't call this person, I can't.
Yeah, I feel in the UK the culture is very like weird because we can't decide whether or not we like freedom of speech or not. Like in America, they're like, yeah, well, I don't care. In Zimbabwe, they're like, we'll throw you in jail. But here, they're like, they can't decide how they feel. Like some of them are like, oh yeah, we want you to be able to say whatever you want. But then some people are like, no, I'll be offended, blah blah blah. We can't really decide as a culture where we stand.
I think that debate is a luxury to have, which is a good place to be honest.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when I come and hear it, I'm like, oh, that's what you're fighting about. I'll take this over the other things I've seen. But also that it's like there's a lot of mob mentality and like footnotes that you have with every conversation. Like,
yeah, of course.
Oh, can I say this in a comedy context? And like, oh no, you shouldn't be saying it.
Yeah.
I guess most people try to say like, you shouldn't be saying it rather than you can't say it. So it's more like, well, you're going to lose your audience.
Yeah. I mean, I would put it like, if there's something you shouldn't say, you shouldn't say it. But if you say it, you should be forgiven for saying it if you actually apologize.
I guess I would take it like a step back and be like, why are you saying it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
What is your intention? Is your intention to make the audience laugh? In that case, so you have to consider the audience to some extent. You are a bit of a people pleaser that way because you have a specific set of people. Or do you want to say, because I want to start a movement and be like, I need to change things the way they are? I'm like, but most of the time I feel like you're just doing just to get a shock reaction sort of.
And it's very easy as well, especially online, to go that way in order to like get an audience, because there are a lot of people who feel like they haven't been served by comedy or whatever, because they feel like, oh, you can't say nothing anymore, that kind of thing. Like, did you watch Ricky Gervais's new special? What did you think of it?
It was not too different from the previous ones. I thought so it wasn't for me.
No.
I know he's been funny in the past, especially like Golden Globes. Felt a bit punching down sort of thing. And like the explanation didn't really match up to the jokes, which he sort of said, where it sort of felt like, see, I'm going to explain why this is not offensive as such, but it doesn't hold up. I guess that point does make sense, but it's also not considering into action that there are people who would look out to you as like a voice, because you have so platform. People will get influenced, and I guess it's more like a philosophical debate of, as someone who's got such a big platform, is it, do you have that responsibility to make sure people think the way I meant to say it out loud? Or you sort of know, like, people are just going to take this bit and think that this is how I feel about things or that, right? So it's a tough moral dilemma.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I would even take it back from the moral dilemma, and I would almost be like, I think it's a shame, really, because you have this situation where you have someone who I think is genuinely used to be one of the most creative stand-ups and comedians in the world, and he has made jokes that are very clever and deconstruct issues in the best ways that I've ever seen. But now, because this whole anti-cancel culture thing has become so profitable, and it's a thing you can just do. That is all he does. And it's kind of with Dave Chappelle as well. Like, I love Dave Chappelle. Dave, like, Sticks and Stones, the special, is the reason I started comedy, really. But like, once everything becomes about trans people and everything becomes about cancel culture, it's just like, yeah, I get it, fair enough, whatever you feel, but like, let's do something else. Because it's almost like this issue is just broken their brains. So it's either they're doing it on purpose because of money, or they don't realize that they're doing it because of all the backlash, and it just becomes the only thing they focus on. Yeah, because it just becomes a point where it's just like, there's other things to laugh at.
Yeah, I think it's also the reaction that you give. Like, obviously, I'm absolutely nobody to comment on these guys as comedians, but like in general, when like people are saying, talking about any issues,
Yeah.
Like if for me, for example, if I talking shit about something and someone tells me, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, I'm a bit motivated to be like, oh, don't tell me what to do. And I would want to react to that. So I don't know, maybe like on the reaction side, maybe it's just best to not react to things, and I understand the argument of why you should react as well. But like, I mean, like even Dave Chappelle, so he did start off that when I went like, oh man, no. I thought we closed this chapter. But then like the next 40 minutes, he doesn't do those things. He sort of talks about Chris Rock and things like that, which is like, but that became like the talking point of the entire show, which is like, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it gave the right weightage to what that show was about.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Even with the Ricky Gervais one, my problem is the fact that it just becomes a lecture on cancel culture, and this is why it's bad. And then a lot of people just come to see him because they're just like, oh, Ricky Gervais, he's the person that doesn't like cancel culture. I mean, he had one joke that I'm like, I don't care what people say, I would genuinely say is actually quite good. As a black person, I'm like, it's a great joke. This when he says, he's talking about cancel culture, and he's like, cancel culture is bad. People are always complaining about cancel culture. And then now black people say the N-word. We invented that. Yeah, that's a good line. It's a good line. And everyone freaked out. But I'm like, that's a good line.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I still think he's a funny person. Like, it's not like, it's more like the topics, like jokes wise, I thought it was like funny. Like I went to Top Secret the other day when I was on the lineup. This guy who just did like every hard hitting topic, and I thought it was hilarious in the club, right? And I was like, everyone was laughing. But if you look up the person and like just see their Twitter, see their general opinion, you'd be like, oh shit, not this guy, sort of.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Tell me who it is after the podcast.
Yeah, so it's like sometimes you sort of want to think like I'm a bit of a joke nerd, as in like I think I try to understand like why this joke is funny and why, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I think I sort of get like why certain jokes works, why certain jokes don't work.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to that, and I was like, I have some level of respect for you for all the jokes. One is obviously for the bravery for the things that you're saying, and second is for how you're making it funny with each thing. That was like a joke almost every 10-15 seconds, which was like in a 20-minute set. So it was like, but then as a person, like if you sort of knew who the person is, like what sort of their ideals are, you'd want to switch off and be like, oh no, I don't want to listen to this guy. But if you didn't know anything about this person and you just went and listened to it, and you're like, oh, fuck, that's offensive, but I laugh.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you do about that? Like, what do you do? Like, if that guy has like an incredible 20 minutes, like, do you never, let's say you own a club, do you not book that person? Like,
yeah,
I guess it depends on how bad the views are.
Yeah, I think who said that? Like, I think like I saw Finn Taylor or someone, like he spoke on some podcast where he's like, oh, like this sort of shit happens every night. Like the offensive content, like you just go to a central, like go to a place like Top Secret or something, like you will hear this for sure.
Yeah.
But, and everyone would like it, 99% would like it. There's just one person who would be like, oh, hang on, that's not right. And this sort of snowballs onto the internet. It becomes a big thing, and that's when it elevates. But in that little room, in that little moment, people are laughing at things. So
yeah, I think also kind of it. I think as well. I think a big problem with it is the fact that the nature of the art form, if you want to call it an art form,
I wouldn't.
The nature
Art form. Everyone's talking about come on the stomach.
the nature of our artistic endeavor is the fact that is the fact that it needs to be done in a room, and even though it is very easy to package and put on the internet, put on television, the nature of the art form is actually it's so much better experienced live, and it almost needs to be experienced live. And if you actually take a joke out and you put it in a clip, you number one, you lose a majority of the impact of the joke, but number two, it's actually a lot easier to be offended by the joke, especially if you write it on paper. But if you hear someone say something in a comedy club, even if it is offensive or whatever, because of the atmosphere of the venue and because the person's built a persona and you can see and feel what the type of person this is, you get a bigger element of the joke than you would if you just see a clip.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's a big part of the problem of why it's easy for people to get offended by stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely true. It's also like everything, the setup, like you're having a few drinks before the show and you've got like a bit of a relationship going with different audience members as well. Exactly. All of that. And I realize like the more I gig, there are so many comedians who are like TV worthy, but they're not. But they're on the circuit just doing club gigs. And like you don't see a lot of TV comedians doing rooms like that. And it's like, oh man, it's like a weird industry in general where you're like, oh, this person absolutely kills every other night in a club. But you wouldn't see them on a TV screen.
No, I mean, I don't believe in the TV anymore. Just as like not as like an object, as in I don't believe in it as a career direction anymore, because I just think what is it gonna do for you? Like really, like what TV show do you want to be on? Like apart from
Traitors.
Having a what was that?
Traitors,
yes.
Taskmaster. When it comes knocking at your door, you'll be like, oh no, I don't believe in you guys.
I don't believe in you. Don't get me wrong, for the love of God, any commissioner, I'm always available. But as terms of the only thing to make comedy, to make a career work anymore, I mean, obviously, if you get on Taskmaster, great. If you get on 8 out of 10 Cats, great, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, it's not like these things make or break a career anymore. And it's not like it's the only way to do it. Like right now, it's like there are probably more people who have sold out like theaters from Instagram than there are people who sold out theaters from TV. Like probably the last generation to really become household names is like James Acaster, Ed Gamble. Like I can't really think of anyone past that who's really used television to really up themselves. I don't know. Can you think of anyone?
I don't know, to be honest, like because I haven't been too much into British television in general. Like I've only been here like 6 years. So a lot of people do talk about these shows like and their historical significance, like, you know, they've been seeing it right from so I don't relate to that. So I'm like, oh, this show is as popular to me as any other show, but I only know it's good because people talk about it in terms of like, oh yeah, no, this comedian like who you sort of know and you've sort of seen in person being there on the screen. Okay, this is sort of like a big deal.
I think it's more of a like, it's less of a that, because there's two ways to become as someone who's not successful in comedy yet, but there's two ways basically that I can see to become successful in comedy. You either have to have the right people let you in, or you have to build an audience on your own. And having a TV credit allows you to get more people to let you in, give you gigs, let you do X, Y, and Z thing. But building an audience ultimately is the thing that is going to support you. So I think it just depends. It depends. But
yeah, like social media for a comedian is quite massive.
It is, yeah.
These days, like you don't need to be on TV. Like your followers will buy tickets to your shows.
Exactly, yeah. Have you found with your social media following, has it paid off yet?
Oh, definitely. Paid off in the sense, I'm able to sell tickets a bit easier now.
Yeah.
Like it sells out. Some shows I do get like a very good turnout, even though it's like I mean it's super cheap in the first place, but like just maintaining it on Linktree, I don't have to advertise much. People come to my bio and they just click the link and see the shows and they just show up.
Yeah. Well, see, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So-
And that's more powerful than anything a
Yeah.
TV can do for you. But so you don't think comedy is an art form?
It's a stretch, isn't it?
That's not that I think it is.
No, it depends on what type of comedy is. Comedy as a blanket, I don't know.
How about stand-up comedy? Do you think stand-up comedy is an art? I don't believe you.
Well, it depends on what you say. At the end of the day, like I love it. I love some shows where people are just so expressive of something simple in such a beautiful way. So I look at that and I'm like, okay, this is art. Like I don't know if you saw the Netflix special Jacqueline Novak's Get on Your Knees.
No. What's it called?
It's called Get on Your Knees.
Get on your knees. Okay. I'll
So
watch
essentially the whole show's about a blowjob.
Oh, really?
But it's one of the most amazing shows I've ever seen. I felt like, okay, this is what Netflix shows should be. Everything else just felt like, okay, all of those are shit.
That's a huge recommendation. I'll definitely watch it.
And that felt like, okay, this is art.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like every single line you listen to, you're like, wow, you know, what a take on something like this. And it was just so hilarious as well at the same time, straight up funny. So things that are like art forms, like the old Dave Chappelle stuff, I thought were like art forms, which is like where you have something profound to say, and it's like, okay, it's quite kind of moving. And like a lot of clowning lately as well. I found like, okay, this is quite interesting. Like I didn't realize this could be like a proper art form. It's not something I ever thought I'd be into, but it's insanely good. So.
Yeah. I mean, I used to think more certainly that it was an art form, but now,
I mean, if you come out and say like anyone on the apps and
yeah,
single, how do you guys meet? Do you guys fuck? And no, it's not.
No, it's not. It's not. But I think it's.
I mean, just to clarify, I do all of that.
So you're not judging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably more of a craft, I guess. It's more of like a skill or even a trick in some ways.
I'd say being a doctor is more of...
It's more of an art form. Stop like giving my parents ammunition.
What are you doing with your life, man? Listen to your parents.
It is a Thursday evening. I'm recording a podcast. That's what I'm doing. This is my day off. I'm working at the weekend.
There's a guy who's probably losing his life right now. And here you are talking about freedom of speech. Sure, we need another take on that.
Oh gosh, I'm probably better here than there.
I have a very South Asian upbringing, so
yeah, dude.
I think I can connect to what your parents are probably thinking. So.
Yeah. I think that they haven't really accepted the day that I will be like, yeah, I'm probably gonna leave medicine. In their minds, they're like, this is just a little fad. But it's like when I won Chortle, it was such like a weird thing because they were proud of me, like, oh, look at you got a little BBC article written about you, whatever. But at the same time, they were like, but you're still a doctor, right? Like, let's not mess around. Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe I'll become a GP. Split the difference. Yeah, can be hated by the public. Man, it is weird though. Like there is something that people just respect about doctors.
Wait, people don't like GPs? What do you mean?
People hate GPs.
Really?
Yeah. No, people hate GPs. Like
I thought we just hate the receptionists.
Oh, people fucking hate the receptionist. To be fair, but I don't even know what it is. Like even me, like when I used to, at med school, when I'd work at a GP. I would get along with the receptionist so fine. But when I would call to my own GP to get an appointment, suddenly it's like, it was like out of nowhere. But I think it's just because they get so much abuse from people that it just primes them to be like that.
More like, let's get to the point.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's less that people don't like GPs and it's more that people don't respect GPs.
Okay, interesting.
Like, unfortunately, like, people see them as the, like, and this, so people within medicine, most of the people obviously respect them, and I personally think they're very important. They have a very hard job, probably one of the hardest in medicine, but a lot of people see them as like the lazy people.
Oh, interesting.
That's because
Centering
yeah,
insight into
medicine.
the doctor circuit.
Yeah, the doctor chat.
Doctor circuit.
No, it's the doctor circuit. It's literally like every specialty has a stereotype associated to it. So if you gave me a specialty, I could tell you this is the type of person that is like. So like orthopedics, rugby lad. Private school, rugby lad, done. Psychiatry, did drugs at uni, done. Pediatrics, really likes kids, easy. A&E, adrenaline junkie.
Really?
Psychotic adrenaline junkies. People who just love carnage. And GPs are just people who want a good life. It's just because it's the most chill life. It really is. Man. So are you going to, after this, you're going to go do some writing?
Yeah, let's see how I feel. I probably need to eat something. I don't know. I've just been... My schedule's been a bit all over the place. I haven't.
You make it sound like dinner is a negotiable.
Yeah, I think I've hit a point where it's like, oh, do I have a proper meal or just get a little snack?
Like what? What snack would you get?
I don't know, like just like a Tesco meal deal.
Oh, come on. You're a growing boy.
Or like, no, I would like have a proper like rice and some lentils and things like that.
A non-stereotypical meal.
Yeah. This is comfort food.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Let me see how my stomach feels or what's
yeah.
I mean, I work around the corner, so I sort of know this area a bit, but I think the market's probably closed by now.
Yeah, no, I think it is. What, last question. How do you write?
How do I write?
How do you write?
So I've evolved a lot. When I first started off, it was just like, I would think of something funny, like every time I had a funny thought, I would just write it down in like a random note and then build over it. So it's like punchline first, and then I'm sure like I can figure out a roundabout setup to get there. So it sort of feels like whatever.
So the idea would come first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lately, what I've been doing is I just write like autobiographical life. Like what my childhood was. I just start writing without the intention of being funny.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, let's maybe trim it down a bit. What are some 3 parts of it? Like if I write like how my experience at school was on a particular day, like an incident that happened, I just write it down. And then I'd be like, what are some funny takes that I could get out of it? And like break it into 3 different parts and be like, okay, let's just trim it down further. And then like another revision. And at worst case, I might probably just get like a single funny line out of one page, which... so I've been experimenting that and I really like it. And because I tried that thought process with a friend as well who had a bit, and I'm like, okay, let's make this, let's punch this up. And it's a much nicer experience. And it's much better when you run it by someone else as well. And they find it, oh, here's some funny thing you can say.
So what form does it take in its final form? Is it like is it like stanzas, like paragraphs, like blocks of text?
I think a page sort of becomes like one paragraph, like 3-4 lines.
Yeah.
I'm a believer of word economy.
Yeah, agreed.
Like as less, can you say the same thing with as minimal words as possible? Do you really need to say this line, etc.? So
yeah, are you scripted?
I think for I used to be for like 5 or 10s.
Yeah.
But now it's just like when I do an hour, it just feels like I can't remember
an
hour of material. So it's like I'm just all over the place, to be honest. Like sometimes when I write stuff and I go to write, oh, this is what I was supposed to say, and I missed that little detail.
Yeah.
So it's because I haven't like done an hour so often. I'd like to be scripted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do experiment these days, especially when I do longer sets with 20s, where I throw in a bit of interactive thing and like use that to sort of segues to jokes, which is like quite an interesting exercise. I don't even look for anything funny to happen in the crowd work.
Yeah.
It's more like setting up for my next joke. Like,
I see.
okay.
So do you do the crowd work like for your?
Yeah,
Like,
here and there.
Yeah.
Like, I just pounce on like any distraction that happens.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is a nice little challenge. Like, can I bring this joke in?
Yeah.
So that's a good exercise for me.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, I know. Like from what I was saying from my previous podcast with where like I got to interview like relatively big names. Like I had James Acaster, Jimmy Carr,
Nice.
Ross Howard. It was a great experience.
Now you have me.
Now,
What happened to you, man? Listen to your parents.
yo, you're the Jimmy Carr of India. That's what we call you behind your back.
Jimmy Carr's been to India. So Jimmy Carr is the Jimmy Carr of India.
And now I have you. That's so funny. What I was gonna say is it's given me a good like one of the great things that it's given me like a good idea of what a normal comedy career looks like and what milestones you hit when, because that's basically what the podcast was. It was like new comedians getting an idea of what a career in comedy looks like, and you are so much further ahead than how long you've been going, and it's so impressive. Like honestly, that the fact that you're even thinking, I mean, I don't think in that way, but the fact that you're even thinking in that way now is like so impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Like having an hour in like 3 years and it being so genuinely good. But yeah, thank you for coming on, Joshua. It's been an absolute pleasure. I don't even know how long it's been, but I can feel our producers leaning over with his calm demeanor, being like, it's time to wrap up now. But fine. Thank you so much for being here, man. It's been so much fun. Bye-bye, everyone. I'll see you later.